Have you ever thought Chris Rock was pandering to white people?
No.
Never.
No.
Where is this narrative coming from? That all of a sudden Chris Rock, the man who gave us Bigger and Blacker, the man who used to get in trouble for racist jokes towards white people, where did this rhetoric come that he panders to white people in his comedy?
Yeah, I don't know. I do not know. Where do you think?
I do not know. I saw, our good sister Eboni K Williams. She said she saw him last year. I saw him last year. She said she felt like he was pandering. I didn't see that at all.
I had a very interesting weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It started by me attending the Chris Rock show by myself.
Okay.
I have been a lifelong Chris Rock comedy fan. For me, Chris Rock is done. Chris Rock was so clearly shucking and jiving.
Don't tell me that.
He was so clearly curtailing his bits for white claps.
Mm-hmm.
It was just full on, unapologetically anti-black.
Really?
This black ass man was sitting in this auditorium. Basically what he said was, I'm black, but I'm not a...
And he said it in front of a room full of white people.
Right, and they were laughing their fucking asses off, Dustin. I left halfway. I was disappointed. I was hungry. Let me just take my black ass on to Checkers. I left there thinking he needed to be slapped one more time. I didn't like the first slap. I thought it was just, whatever. But now I'm like, what shit? Where's Big Willie when you need him?
Yeah. And then Jason Lee was on the See the Thing Is podcast with Mandy and Bridget Kelly. And he said that Chris Rock panders the white people. When? When did this happen? I've ever seen Chris Rock do is challenge white people.
Yeah.
Challenge the white supremacist system. Yeah. Chris Rock is the guy who literally within 2 minutes of, I think it was it
also explaining the black experience. I would say explain the black experience to white people.
Okay.
Like Chris got that great joke where he's like, he talks about his neighborhood.
Yes.
That joke is one of the best jokes about explaining the black experience and like what white, I don't know, what does he call it? Like white mediocrity?
Yeah. I think that would either Bigger and Blacker or Kill the Messenger.
He basically talks like what a black person needs to do to achieve like what a regular white person.
Yeah,
he
said in his neighborhood it's only 4 people. It's Mary J. Blige at the time.
Yeah,
Mary J. Blige,
in my
Eddie
neighborhood
Murphy.
there are 4 black people.
Yeah.
It is Mary J. Blige, it is Jay-Z,
Eddie Murphy,
Chris Rock, and
Eddie Murphy.
Was it Eddie Murphy?
It was Eddie Murphy, yeah.
And he goes, now, that is the greatest R&B singer of all time.
Greatest
rapper of all time.
Greatest comedian.
The greatest comedian of all time. And then he says, like, and a pretty good comedian. He's like self-deprecating with himself. Right? And then he goes, my neighbor is a dentist.
Word.
My white neighbor is a dentist. He didn't invent the veneer.
Word.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it was brilliant. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think this is really unfair.
Listen, there's a essay that Chris Rock wrote on racism a while ago, and I think it was Hollywood Reporter, one of them. But go back and watch the Oscars So White monologue from 2016. Not just watch the monologue, watch the whole show and watch how he challenges racism and white supremacy. Like there's one part where he goes, this year the in memoriam package is going to be all the black people that were shot by cops on their way to the movies.
Yeah, I don't...
You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe it's because he operates in white spaces more often.
Well, he speaks about that here on this thing with Kevin Hart show on Peacock.
It's a weird thing. So I do bring the pain, and I'm on Oprah, and I'm on 60 Minutes, and I'm on the cover of every magazine or whatever in the world. But you had that Whitney Houston rumbling was like, only white people like it. Mm-hmm. Too many white people like him. So when it was time to do my next special, I'm like, oh, you think only white people like me? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm going to the Apollo. Mm-hmm. And there ain't going to be no white people nowhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to call the special biggest. This is the blackest special you will ever see.
That's my point. Like it's like, yo, have you ever seen Bigger and Blacker? He does it in Harlem. He starts off talking about how he's scared of young white kids because all they do is shoot people.
The elevator joke.
Yes, he's got a whole bit about racism and how white people need to shut the fuck up about losing the country. I'm like,
this is a tricky thing because I think that the genius of Chris Rock is that he's able to communicate things that black people know from their own experience to a way to non-black people. It's not just white people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's to the masses, right?
Absolutely.
There are Indians that love Chris Rock, Asians that love Chris Rock, right? And he can communicate those things. And black people get to go, yes, I relate to this. This is it. And non-black people get to go, oh shit, that's hilarious. I didn't see it that way.
That's right.
Now,
and a little bit of shame. A lot of shame.
Sure.
A lot of
100%.
shame.
You're embarrassed that you didn't see it like that.
Yo, they called Chris Rock racist they called him racist a few times for white jokes he made about white people and the fact he used to use cracker all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
Which he's back doing in this new bit, which I love.
Yeah.
But there was a time where it was a school shooting. I forgot where it was. And Chris Rock posted on Instagram what everybody thinks when it's a school shooting or when it's a mass shooting.
Yeah.
He put a picture of Betty White.
Yeah.
And they called him racist for that. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
Chris Rock has done is challenge racism and white
but this is what
supremacy.
happens when you're successful is they have to find a way to discredit you. And that's just a part of success. I'm sure you've experienced it. You know what I mean? I've experienced it. It's like they have to find a way to nitpick you because it's easier to tear you down than for those people who aren't as successful to just look at themselves and go, oh shit, I don't got what he got.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens when you get super, super famous, successful like Chris Rock. And also there might be some Will Smith fans out there, for real. Like, there might be some Will Smith fans going, okay, we got to pick sides now, and I'm going to go with Will because Will didn't ever do this.
Well, listen, if that is the case, and this is because of Will Smith, if y'all thought that if y'all are saying Chris Rock panders the white people with his comedy, what do you think people used to say about Will?
Oh, I mean, also.
What do you think they used to say about Will?
I mean,
they used to call Will soft. They used to say Will is just, he tap dances for white people. That was a thing.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Also I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think Will did like an explicitly black experience movie until he got canceled. Right? Now, I'm sure this is by design. I'm sure his agents are going, well, we want you to just be the biggest superstar in the world, regardless of race. Yeah. So we're not going to pick a specific movie that's tied to race.
Yeah.
But
put it like this, Will,
which also does open up other opportunities to other black actors to play roles that aren't specifically, hi, I'm black guy.
Will's trajectory was not that of Chris Rock. Will, there was never a time when Will was on the come up where he was like, I'm gonna go to Harlem and make a bigger and blacker.
Yeah.
Because that's not what you did when you was a big Hollywood superstar.
Yeah, maybe the thing with Chris Rock is when you see him in like films and when you see him just hanging out and you see his peer group, it's all white people. So you're like, oh, from the outside. That's what it looks like. From the outside, the average person goes, oh, he's hanging out with Seinfeld, or he's hanging out with Sandler, or he's hanging out with all these dudes. So it's like...
But that's the New York comedy scene.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I recognize that, and I go, oh, these are his peers. These are the greats that came up at the same time.
Absolutely.
Not to mention there are plenty of other black greats that came up at that time that I'm sure that he's close with. But when you think of him in those circles, you're like, okay, I see him as comedian. So I'm seeing him just hang out with other comedians. This is going to sound so fucking stupid, but when there are a bunch of comedians hanging out, it's not like I'm white first and then comedian. It's we're all comedian first and then race. Yeah. And that allows us to talk about things in a kind of wild way.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the perception is you not seeing him doing traditionally black cultural things as much and doing mainstream things.
But what did he not do that wasn't black and cultural?
Essence Fest. He didn't host. I host Essence Fest. I've done that 3 or 4 times, but he's never done that once.
Here's the thing. Chris Rock has always been the black voice to me in mainstream, whatever that is, America. You know what I'm saying? He was always the black guy that was black, but still representing hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Still representing blackness on a high level, whether it was the HBO show, the Chris Rock show, whether it was Everybody Hates Chris, whether it was him on SNL, whether it was his stand-up. He was a black guy that I saw get super success by really being black.
And being militant almost.
Militant, exactly.
Yeah, like he wasn't doing it in a like a metaphorical way. You know, he wasn't doing it in like a more cartoonish way.
That's right.
He was deliberate, straight to the point. This is what I want to talk about.
It never changed. You know, you can go back and watch his last stand-up special, Tambourine. He starts off Tambourine by saying, I want to live in a world with real equality. I want to live in a world where an equal amount of white kids are shot every month. I want to see white mothers on TV crying. That's how he starts off Tambourine. Yeah. This was 2 years ago. Now y'all trying to tell me that Chris Rock panders to white people in his comedy? Now, Taylor brought up a good point, because I always like to ask the young and not so young, like Taylor. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Middle-aged. I like to ask middle-aged people.
Middle-aged women, what they're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And she brought up the...
Taylor having a midlife crisis now that we think about it.
100%. Absolutely.
That's what, like, men, we buy cars. Absolutely. She's like, I need to have a baby. I need to get pregnant right now.
But she was saying that video of Chris Rock, Seinfeld, Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais.
Talking Funny, I believe, is the name of the show.
Yes. She said that segment where he's allowing, I'm not going to say allowing, but they were using the N-word, in his presence. Yeah. She said a lot of people see that clip, and she said that's why she thinks
that's a really tough clip outside of
context.
And again, not outside the context of the show, outside the context of being comedians.
Mm-hmm.
What this was done in a time where there was a real curiosity about comics, and we kind of accepted that comics were going to say wild things that other people did not. And there were a lot of comics, some of our friends, contemporaries, that have jokes with the N-word.
Yeah.
Like, you look at
Louis C.K. was
Louis C.K., George Carlin.
Yeah.
Like, the goats, the people that would call the goats.
Or Barbara Walters would bring it up in interviews.
She was a wild girl.
You know what I'm saying?
Babs was a wild girl,
you can go pull up the Barbara Walters Richard Pryor interview. She lets 2 of them fly. Big ones.
Big.
See, it's hard for me to say. I was going to say, you talk about niggers. I can't. You can say it. I can't say it. Yeah, but I feel so uncomfortable.
No, you say,
yeah,
I don't like the nigger, period.
Yeah, but you see, I don't say I don't like the nigger, period.
So I think this is what this was, is they're like, hey, we're going to be comedians, kind of like workshopping, talking shit.
Yeah.
Right? And then Seinfeld comes along and nerds it up. Only can you say that? Right? And the reality is if they were actually at a table at a comedy club in private without the cameras rolling, everybody would be saying that shit.
Well, I think this was interesting because, to your point, yes, I think Seinfeld is the one who recognized, like, I don't know if y'all should be saying this
on camera.
Probably, you know what I mean.
You know what I mean.
He's a member of an oppressed group, right? Jewish people, and so he wouldn't want nobody using Jewish slurs.
Seinfeld also said on a late night show, he's like, I can separate the art from the artist with Cosby. And then they went to commercial. He was like, I kind of regret that. I don't know if that was the smartest thing that I should have said, but the knee-jerk reaction was just separate the art from the artist.
But you know why? Because that's such a cliche thing to say.
Yeah.
Until you realize, well, wait a minute now.
No, you know what it really
the artist
is?
really jumped out the window.
He went out the window. But what it really is he's a comedian, so he's looking at the comedy, and he values comedy more than anything.
Yeah.
And I think when you're with people who value the art more than anything, they can put these other things aside.
Yeah.
And that's just 4 dudes that really value the art.
And by the way, you can critique this moment with Chris, Louis C.K., Ricky Gervais, and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
But to call Chris a super coon or to say Chris panders to white people with his comedy, you ain't watched enough Chris Rock then.
Well, that's also a bunch of kids on the internet that aren't old enough to know fucking Chris Rock.
Well, Jason and Ebony aren't. Well, Ebony's younger, you know what I mean? But Jason's